everybody, my name is Jessica Verderami. Welcome to my living room slash kitchen slash workspace. My unit that I'm talking about today is a third grade unit on geography, and it's kind of based around the 5 key terms of geography, which actually is the same thing that Merck used for her unit, but we went about it in very different ways. My imaginary classroom is based a lot off of my field experience this semester, which is at Liberty Elementary School, which is in Valley Cottage, New York. And it's a pretty diverse community, so it's a pretty diverse classroom. There are 18 students in my imaginary classroom. 4 of these students are at an enriched level in either math or ELA or both. 6 students are at a remedial level in math or ELA or both. There are 3 ELLs in the classroom who receive ESL services. There are 2 students who are learning disabled. They have ADHD and they receive resource room services. 1 student receives speech therapy. 1 student sees the school psychiatrist. And there's 1 child with a little bit of a unique family situation. He was adopted and is part of a family that has 2 mommies. So, day 1 of my unit is pretty much a little bit of an introduction to geography. We start with a really great picture book, a read aloud, and the book is called What is Geography? And it's by Uri Shulevitz. And unfortunately, I ordered the book about a week ago and it was supposed to be here today, but it's not here for me to share with you. So you can come visit me and I'll read it to you another time. After we finish reading the book, we would do a KWL chart about geography, just to kind of see what everybody knows, what they're interested in. And this is more of an activity to engage them in the unit. It's not my pre-assessment. My pre-assessment for the unit is actually this worksheet, and it's a key terms worksheet. And students are given lists of words and are asked to identify the geography word in each list of words. So for example, the first one, the words are letter, chair, location, and potato chips. And hopefully you know that the geography word in that list is location. Day number 2 is geography key term number 1, which is location. And we're mainly using the compass to teach this. And we'll start with north, south, east, and west posted on the walls of the classroom. And do a little Simon Says with that. Simon says face east, Simon says face west, etc. To kind of orient students within their physical setting at the moment. After students have kind of gotten a grasp of north, south, east, and west, they'll be working in desk groups with a large laminated map of the United States and dry erase markers. And we'll find our current location, and as a class we'll identify north, south, east, and west. We'll identify different things that are north, south, east, and west of our current location using this map. And from there, students will be working independently. And they'll each be given a map of Rockland County, and I've got one here. It's a little disappointing, it's black and white, I didn't have a color printer. And students will be finding their current location, which is Valley Cottage, New York, and will be writing a few sentences explaining their location in terms of north, south, east, and west. For the ELLs in my classroom, if their home country is not the US, they'll be given the option of using a map of their home country and can describe their hometown in terms of location the same way they would for Rockland County. Day 3 is key term number 2, which is place. And we'll start off with some independent work, which is compiling place profiles of Valley Cottage. And place includes climate, physical features, and people. So we have a graphic organizer, and students will be using that to organize their information. And once they've compiled their information, they'll compare in groups of 3, see who has what and whether or not their information matches up, and we'll come together as a class and kind of put together a master place profile and make sure everybody's on the same page. Day 4 is key term number 3, which is human-environment interaction. And what we'll do is we'll start off with a discussion, and we'll talk about how students in Valley Cottage get ready for school every day. And then we'll talk about how students maybe get ready for school in other places. Maybe somewhere very hot, somewhere very cold, somewhere with a very different geography, maybe a very mountainous area or a desert, things like that. And for that, we have a really fun activity. Students will be given they'll be assigned a place. Each desk group of students will be assigned a specific place, and they'll be given a little bit of information about that place. And based on the information that they're given, they will have an outline of a figure, and their job is to dress this figure appropriately for school. And I have a little example I made. This is my cool dude who goes to school in Florida, where it's flat. So he's got a skateboard, he's got his sunscreen, and he's got his backpack, and his shades, and he's ready for school. Day 5 is key term number 4, which is movement. And that's all about ways that people move and communicate in different places. And we'll start off with a discussion of different places and unique ways that people have adapted to move and communicate, such as Venice, where they have canals, so people travel in gondolas instead of cars or buses. We'll also have students working in pairs, and they'll be given unique situations that they might encounter. For example, if they lived in a very cold country and they had to get to school, but there was so much snow regularly that they couldn't drive their car, how would they get to school? And they would have to come up with a creative way of doing that. Or maybe if they were somewhere where they didn't necessarily have electricity, it was a very rural area, how would they communicate with their neighbors? Day number 6 is key term number 5, which is regions. And for regions, we would start off with a couple words on the board. Things like states, countries, towns, etc. And discuss what these words are about and what they have in common, and kind of guide students towards the fact that these are all ways that places are divided. And after that, students would be given a map of New York State and asked to work with a partner to divide up New York State in as many ways as they can think of and justify them. So they might have all different reasons, but once they're done with that, we would come together as a group and we would actually discuss different ways that New York State actually is divided up. So maybe zip codes, the way it's divided up for voting, or, you know, like a topographical map, towns, things like that. We would also do for that day, because it's the 5th key term that we've already learned, we would do a vocabulary foldable to keep track of our key terms. And on these, I don't know if you can see, but you have the key term, and you have a little picture that goes along with it, and that's up to the student's discretion what they want the picture to look like. On the inside, they would write a sentence involving the term, and then they would write a definition in their own words. And this is a great way for them. It's a tool in case they can't remember what any of the key terms mean, and it's also a great study guide for them to bring home with them. Day number 7 is all about comparing and contrasting geography. And students will work with partners and will be given information about 2 places. And the information that they'd be given it wouldn't be like an encyclopedia article that they'd be given. It would be simpler than that, so that it would be age appropriate. But they would take that information about 2 different places and identify the 5 key terms within it, and they would use the information that they gather to complete a Venn diagram about those 2 places. So it would be the unique characteristics of the 2 places and the common characteristics in the middle. Let's see. Day number 8 is all about using the 5 key terms to describe Valley Cottage, New York, which is where these students live and go to school. We would start off with a graphic organizer, and on this graphic organizer, students would give a definition of each of the 5 key terms, and they would describe Valley Cottage in terms of these terms. And this is actually a little bit more maybe fun or easy. I can't think of the right word, but it's not research-based because this is where they live. They know information about this place. And if they can't think of something, they can talk to their neighbor, their desk neighbor, and say, hey, what's that mountain called over there? Oh yeah, that's Hook Mountain, or something like that. And from that information, students would work together to create a brochure about Valley Cottage, describing Valley Cottage in terms of the 5 key terms. And it would almost be like a travel brochure, like, come visit Valley Cottage. Day 9 is the first part of our assessment, and it's actually it's group work used as an assessment, and students would be working in groups of 3 to analyze a given community, and they would fill out a graphic organizer about it, and it would just be finding and categorizing the information would be the main task that day. Day number 10, which is our final day, is the second part of the assessment, and students are going to use the information that they gathered on day number 10 to create a Venn diagram of Valley Cottage, New York, and the location that they worked on with their group. So they actually have graphic organizers about both locations, and they need to compare and contrast these two locations using the key terms. And that'll be our final assessment. So thank you all very, very much for listening to me talk about my unit. I hope I didn't talk too fast or trip over my words too much. Good luck with the rest of the semester, and thanks for listening.